We are living in the worst economic conditions since the Great Depression. With the recent economic crisis, many people are wondering if this is the worst economic condition since the Great Depression. Inflation and recession are high, salaries are low, and the economy is not looking good at all. Introduction. We are living in the worst economic conditions since the Great Depression. The economy is in a recession and the unemployment rate is rising. The stock market is crashing and the housing market is in a slump. The government is borrowing money to pay for its spending and the national debt is increasing. The inflation rate is rising and the value of the dollar is falling. We aren't living in the best of times. The current economic conditions are the worst they've been since the Great Depression. Many people are out of work, underemployed, or working jobs that don't pay a living wage. The cost of living is rising, while wages remain stagnant. It's hard to save money, and even harder to get ahead. These tough times have led many people to re-evaluate their priorities. For some, that means going back to school to get a degree that will lead to a better paying job. For others, it means starting their own business. And for others still, it means simply trying to make ends meet day to day. No matter what your situation is, it's important to remember that you're not alone. Millions of people are struggling in this economy, and we're all in it together. We'll get through this tough time by supporting each other and staying positive. Why the economic crisis is different in nature this time. The current economic conditions are often compared to the Great Depression of the 1930s. While there are some similarities, there are also important ways in which this crisis is different. Understanding these differences can help us to better deal with the challenges we face today. One key difference is the cause of the crisis. The Great Depression was largely caused by a failure of the financial system. This time, the crisis began in the real economy with a housing bust and a resulting wave of defaults and foreclosures. While the financial system has certainly been affected, it is not the root cause of the problem. Another key difference is the response of policymakers. During the Great Depression, policymakers did not understand how to respond effectively and ended up making things worse. This time, policymakers have been much more aggressive in their response, including using fiscal stimulus and quantitative easing. While there have been some mistakes made, overall policymakers have been more successful in dealing with this crisis. Finally, another key difference is that this crisis has been much more global in nature. The Great Depression was largely confined to developed countries, while this time developing countries have also been affected. This has made the task of dealing with the crisis more difficult, as fiscal and monetary stimulus has a different impact in each country. I think that these are the three main reasons why the response to this crisis has been so different than during the Great Depression. How this economic crisis differs from what happened in the past. We are currently in the midst of the worst economic conditions since the Great Depression. This economic crisis is different from what happened in the past in a few key ways. First, this crisis was caused by a pandemic rather than by financial markets. Second, the global economy has been hit much harder than in previous crises. And third, the policy response to this crisis has been much more coordinated and aggressive than in the past. These three factors make this economic crisis unlike any other that we have experienced in recent history. The pandemic has caused a massive shock to the global economy, and the policy response has been unprecedented. We can only hope that these measures will be enough to get us through this tough time. What is making things worse? There are a number of factors that are making the current economic conditions worse than those during the Great Depression. One of the key factors is the level of debt that both individuals and businesses are carrying. This high level of debt means that there is less disposable income available to spend, which in turn creates a downward spiral for the economy. Another factor that is making things worse is the high level of unemployment. During the Great Depression, unemployment reached a high of 25%. While it is not currently at that level, it is still higher than it was pre-recession and is not showing any signs of improving. This high level of unemployment means that more people are struggling to make ends meet, which again has a negative impact on spending and economic growth. Finally, another key factor that is making things worse is the lack of confidence in both consumers and businesses. Consumers are hesitant to spend money due to concerns about their personal financial situation, and businesses are unwilling to invest due to concerns about future demand. This lack of confidence further exacerbates the downward spiral of the economy. The bigger picture. We are living in the worst economic conditions since the Great Depression. The economy has been in a recession for almost a decade, and there is no end in sight. The government is doing everything it can to try to revive the economy, but it is not working. The only thing that seems to be working is the stock market, which is benefiting the wealthy. The poor and middle class are getting poorer, and the gap between the rich and the poor is growing wider. There is a lot of uncertainty in the world right now, and it is reflected in the economy. Businesses are not investing, because they don't know what the future will hold. Consumers are not spending, because they are worried about losing their jobs or their homes. The only thing that seems to be keeping the economy afloat is government spending, which is not sustainable in the long term. The situation we are in is very serious, and it requires serious solutions. We need to find a way to get businesses investing again, and we need to find a way to get consumers spending again. Otherwise, we are heading for another Great Depression. Thanks for watching. See you on the next episode.